What's going on, guys and girls and everybody else? That was weird. All right, Coach Luca here from Vigor Fitness and Performance with Cody, the Boom Boom McBroom. And this is a kind of a new thing that we're going to be doing on a regular, and it's called the Nutrition Corner. All right, so we're going to cover like pretty much everything covering nutrition, but more than anything else, beyond like this episode that we're going to do, we're going to start asking a lot of questions in which you guys and girls are interested in, and then we're going to do episodes specifically on the things that you're interested in, right? So we want to just pretty much answer your questions, and we do a lot of this in-house, inside of Vigor Ground, but, you know, we keep getting more and more questions, and like I said, in things that are maybe a little bit wider scope, and things that are very specific from, you know, IIFYMs, reverse dieting, to hormones, to, you know, you name it, right? So paleos and left and right and up and down. So we're going to start today with kind of just covering our philosophy somewhat, and things that we get asked quite a bit, and, you know, what we believe to be the best way to not only, like, you know, create a transformation through, you know, through nutrition, because it's such a big factor, but more than anything too, to keep it as a lifestyle, right? So it's not one of these like, hey, 8-week things, I did really great, and then but I can't stick to it, right? So all right, Cody, let's start off by saying what, you know, because we work with a lot of people. You're doing a ton of nutritional programs here. What would you say, like, what do we start with when somebody comes in, right? I mean, it's kind of like blank slate. You know, I want to make a transformation, both, you know, but I want to feel good too. So I want to look good, but I want to feel crappy. Like everybody wants to feel good, right? So I want to be healthy, but I want to obviously look great and work towards the goal. Like, what's the first thing that you're going to cover?
You know, I think essentially we start with kind of like the precision nutrition style dieting, where we have guideline-based stuff. Usually about 10 rules to follow. You know, eat veggies every meal, eat protein, try to eat every 2 to 4 hours. Simple rules that you can follow that can lead to good results, good health, and good performance, but doesn't take too much stressful meal timing and meal prepping and specific macros or anything that's going to overwhelm anybody at the beginning stages of a transformation.
And, you know, let me kind of add to that. When, you know, I think that the key word here is habit, right? And, you know, what Cody is talking about with the habits that we try to instill with people is not to throw too much at them. And you know, and this is I think that one of the biggest things that we'll see a mistake in is everybody wants to, like, go right into it, right? Give me everything that I need right now, the calories, the macros, this, that, and the other, you know, to get this amazing transformation fast, and then I'm good. And the truth is, you know, that, like, bad habits are very deeply ingrained in, like I said, with nutrition as well. And specifically here, we're going to talk about nutrition. So to give someone, you know, 10, 15 different changes is huge. Right, so we'll start with looking at, remember, so step number 1, you know, journaling to become aware of what you're doing and what you're not doing, so that we can look over it, and then look at the big pieces, you know, that or the little pieces that we can start changing to see improvement. Perfect. Let's just take an example. This might be a little bit left field, but, you know, what are some things that you see people, because you're looking over a lot of plans right now, so what would you say is a typical breakfast of someone that comes here before we make any changes?
It could be anything. Usually it's high carb because they're either eating toast, which usually isn't the best toast, or oatmeal. Usually don't see a lot of good healthy fats and protein, which is actually the best way to go. Not a lot of greens in there. So typically I see oats, granola, even cereal sometimes, bagel, cream cheese, or straight up just Starbucks coffee, which has more calories than you need in a breakfast period, and it's just a drink. And like he said before, the journalism is like the biggest key, because when I do get the chance to manipulate your diet and give you specific goals and macros, then I can go off something. If I don't have a journal from previous dieting, I don't know where they were at in the first place, where I can make adjustments from.
So basically, right, we've got just a lot of carbs, and you know, not like carbs are evil, but breakfast is carbs, usually processed carbs, sugary carbs, and nothing else. So in this example, we're gonna just change, you know, the breakfast to a smoothie, because it's simple, right? It doesn't take a lot of time to make. So we'll do like power smoothies, and then spinach and blueberries and protein, and, you know, a little bit of banana and some peanut butter, and get, like, you know, a nutrient dense smoothie going, right? And that might be one habit that we're gonna change, and drinking a certain amount of water a day. That's it, right? doesn't seem too, I mean, if I said that to most people, they say, hey, you know, that's something I can do for sure. So we do that for about 2 weeks, and when they can be compliant with that, then we start adding. But the thing is, just that one change creates a lot of it. Like I said, small hinges swing big doors, and that creates change because they're drinking more water. Water makes you fuller, right? You're more hydrated, improves metabolism. Then we got, like I said, for breakfast, you're eating something better, gives you better energy, doesn't give you a surge and then a crash, right? And boom, and it's like, okay, don't worry about the rest of this stuff, right? Because if you start worrying about everything else, it can become overwhelming. Like, you know, you have habits, emotional triggers that cause eating in the evening, so on and so forth. So we've changed one hinge, but it might swing a big door open, right? So now all these habits can be everything from, like I said, you know, keeping the starchy carbs more after training, making sure you got veggies and fruit with every meal, 5-to-1 ratios, right? I mean, there's a list of habits that we work with. Now, once somebody's, you know, and the thing is, people move at different rates, right? Some people, you know, it takes them a little longer. Some people can get with it pretty fast. Now, if somebody's, you know, mastered a habit, say those 10 habits, we get them compliant about 85% of the time, 85% of the time. Where do we go then?
That's kind of where we start introducing calories and macros and macro rotation, different styles of macro dieting. Because at this point they have a self-discipline and a better routine of how to eat in general, and they can pick the right foods. So if we give them a macro goal to hit, they're not going to choose the wrong foods to eat, if that makes sense. And they can get a well-rounded day of prepping, essentially. And a lot of times people see IIFYM, if it fits your macros, and it's Pop-Tarts and ice cream and these things. But they don't realize that 90% of the day is actually greens, protein, good fiber, healthy food. The people that do eat that stuff are usually eating 4,000 calories, and they have worked their metabolism to the point where they can allow those things. And there's nothing wrong with allowing treats here and there. It's kind of like the 90-10 rule that we practice, because everybody deserves a little bit of a treat and to enjoy themselves. I don't like saying cheat because we don't want to cheat on something, right? We want to reward ourselves. But if you can fit it into those macro guidelines, it's a little bit, you're better off, because then you're not going in a calorie surplus.
That's a great point, right? So it's a great point in a sense that, you know, I kind of wanted to get to the, you know, IFYM, so if it fits your macros mentality, because it definitely works. It works because there's a structure, there's science behind it. But, you know, once again, like our goal here is to make people feel amazing and keep them healthy as well. So we got to, you know, nutrient-dense foods that cover, you know, the micronutrients as well, and obviously gut health. And, you know, we could go, I think a lot of people swing the pendulum one way or the other when it comes to gut health and things like that. But, you know, the point is like Cody said, is once they've built habits of choosing better foods that like fit, that match their goals, right? Once we do add in the calories and macros, they're more apt to basically choosing those foods. And we still have that window. We're big fans, like I said, of PN, where, you know, it's 90-10, 90% of the time, eat in line with your goals, 10% of the time, eat what you want. And you can fit in those things that may, you know, like I said, I don't want to say they're cheating or anything like that. They're just treats that, you know, you love, whether it's slices of pizza or cookies or this, that, and the other. And you've, you know, because you behave kind of like in line with your goals, then you treat yourself to those different things. And essentially, when we do IIFYM, like that's still kind of like what we stick to, essentially, is the 90-10 rule within those macros and within those caloric.
Absolutely. And I think the big thing too is dietary adherence, where you can actually follow a diet for a long period of time. A lot of people have cheat days and they'll be clean all week, and then they go on a binge Saturday because it's cheat day, and they end up eating 5,000 calories, which is going to be 3,500 calories over their limit, which takes days to recover. And then they're just in a vicious cycle of gaining, losing, and they don't get anywhere. So a good example is a client I have. She loves these organic cookies. It's an organic cookie, and it's got sugar, it's got wheat. It's not a great thing for fat loss, but I told her like every other day or every other strength day you can have that cookie as long as you fit in your macros, and those other days you're compliant. So she's getting 90% of her meals with veggies. She's hitting her fiber, her micronutrients. She's getting her protein. Everything's good, and I check her on MyFitnessPal. I'm like, go have that cookie. And that reward to her emotionally takes her further than it would if she had a cheat day, because she's not going to have the regret. She rewarded herself by earning that cookie. And then the next day she doesn't feel bloated or sluggish or anything like that because she earned it, and it actually fits within her calorie limit because of her following the plan and the program.
And I think, see, this is I'm glad that kind of Cody took it there in a sense, because now we're kind of getting back in talking about these the habits and the feelings that people get from adhering to one type of nutrition. Like I said, I don't want to say diet, but one type of nutrition lifestyle and the other, because they may be following everything great, and then you get this binge, right? But what that a lot of times does, it spirals back into a former habit, right? Whereas if it's, hey, we're building on success, and then here's something that you enjoy that you can't have tons of, but like you reward yourself with it. It's like I said, this habit loop: cue, routine, reward. And now you're kind of ingraining this good habit. Like, hey, I eat healthy, I eat in line with my goals, and then I reward myself, whether it's every couple of days or it's so many times a week. A really good example to have is like if somebody's on average, how many meals on average do you think that most people are eating when you're making the plans? 3, 4, 5?
Anywhere between 3 and 6, really. I mean, some people like to eat, like me personally, I eat 6 times a day, and that's not because of the old bodybuilding stereotype. It's simply because I'm always hungry and I like to stay satisfied. But a lot of people end up being around 4 or 5 just because of work.
Stay satisfied.
Exactly.
You listen to that.
And I think a lot of people just have busy schedules, so they can't eat 6 times a day, and they don't want to carry Tupperwares. Thankfully, I live up the street and I work in a gym where it's a typical thing to have a bag full of Tupperwares, so I can get away with that. But a lot of people are usually in the 4 to 5 range. 4 to 5.
Okay, so we're going to take 4, say 7 days a week, 4 meals. If I'm pretty good at math, so that's 28 meals per week, right? Out of 28 meals per week, if we take that 10%, we can look at a 2.8, but let's round it up to 3. So 3 meals a week, you can kind of have whatever you want. Now that doesn't mean binging, and it kind of still means staying within your macros, right? But that means, hey, Friday night you want to have popcorn, Saturday you go out and have a burger, another day that you do something, right? It gives quite a bit of leeway, and that's kind of like what we want people to get to, because personally, even beyond, and I'm going to ask you in a second, like what your thoughts are on this, but beyond macros and calories, I think that the long-term strategy, or should I say the long-term hope, is to not have to your whole life count calories, right? So, but if we get somebody they're starting to make a transformation, they lose 30-40 pounds, they get leaner, they kind of get to where they want to go, and then they maintain that, right? And they're working on performance, whatever, but they do it for a year. If we take all those numbers away, they're ingrained in like how they're living, and like they're going to be able to maintain that body without going like, oh, this is how much it was, right? Yep. And that essentially is our goal, to get people to that lifestyle where you can take all that stuff away. The habits are so ingrained. They understand, I ate a little more this week, I'm having a little more carbs because I'm training harder, I'm doing this, that, and the other, and you're always within those ranges, right? But all these strategies, should I say, from creating habits and teaching new habits that match the goals, to then going into calories and macronutrients, all of those things do exactly that. We're getting them to the point where they can do that and enjoy it and not feel like they're stressed and it's controlling their life. Now I'm going to run it back just a little bit, because we do train quite a lot of people that work for goals, whether it's photo shoots, physique competitors, bikini, bodybuilding, things like that. Now, tell us a little bit about how we work in the macro rotation diet, for instance.
With competitors, sometimes flexible dieting works, depending on if they've done previous shows and they're getting good at it, and they know, like you said, they've built that habit change already. It's easy to kind of go off that, because they know how many times a day they should eat. They know if they're getting bloated or eating too much, things like that. But if they're not, and if it's for show, I usually go with something like macro rotation, which is simply a way that I can set specific macros, so protein, carbs, and fat, per meal, either 4, 5, 6 times a day. I can cycle those for high carb or low carb days, but it lets me know that they're getting an overall amount each day. They don't really have to track anything, because I create a template for them, and it's kind of like just dragging things in. I give them a measurement table, I give them their numbers, and then they just pull it into the meals. So it takes a little bit of the stress out of them going onto MyFitnessPal and their apps and trying to plug in a bunch of stuff if they go out, and it makes it a lot easier to just look at a chart and be like, hey, I got to eat this, bang, bang, bang. And you know what? Like, over time, you get used to it, like you said, if you stick to the plan, because I was following that for my last show, and I ended up not even tracking things after a while, because I just knew and that's what made me create the handful diet. Is like I knew that a handful of this equaled how much protein I need for this meal, and it just kind of gets ingrained in your system, which is important because, like you said, over time you don't want to have that stress of tracking for the rest of your life. I don't want to worry about exactly every single gram of protein I'm getting in a day. I just want to stay in that ballpark. But you need to build those habits first.
For instance, if with the macro rotations, because there's just a little bit, we can keep this simple. The philosophy behind it, behind having higher days, lower days, and a lot of it has to do obviously too with body types, where people are at, what they need. Do they have a faster metabolism? Are they very insulin resistant? Those different things. But let's keep it really simple and just what could be the benefit of something like that over like just a steady every day is the same type of nutrition.
The benefit would simply be what your training's like, what your work's like, and your energy expenditure is. So if you are in the gym training hard, heavy, one day you're gonna want more carbs. Simply is that you want a higher calorie. You can use more of those calories than you would on a rest day or a cardio day or a metabolic day. So you don't really need that. So the benefit is simply recovery and body composition. It works a little bit better with insulin and different hormones to kind of store muscle glycogen and then not overflow calories or anything like that on days that you don't need excess calories.
Yep. So I mean, basically, simply it's kind of like this. We're giving our body what it needs, when it needs it, also based on like not only training, recovery, our goals, we it's muscle building, whether it's fat loss, but also, like I said, whether someone is more insulin resistant or, or they're not. And, we have like a somatotypes and somebody's a mesomorph and they can eat a lot more carbs and we can load them more days a week with, like I said, with more calories and higher carbs and things like that. So all it is basically adjusting that to kind of optimize, whatever optimal means these days, for their results. And like I say, with each individual, we pick and choose these things based not only on, like I said, body types and goals and things like that, but their lifestyle, right? That's a huge, it's kind of like, putting a round peg through a square hole. I think a lot of times it's like, hey, this is the best thing. And it's like, well, it depends, is it the best thing for the client, and the lifestyle that they're living, because it may be by the numbers scientifically great, but it's something that they just can't follow.
And going off of that, a lot of people come to me and they're like, oh, are you going to put me on that one macro diet or that one rotation diet that you had this person on? I'm like, well, I don't know yet, because like you said, everybody's different. You're not that person. You're going to handle things different. Your lifestyle is different. And sometimes I don't even do carb cycling because sometimes people do have I have entrepreneur client stuff. They're in here Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday 1 week, then Monday, Wednesday, Friday the next week. They can't train one day because of work. So sometimes I keep their carbs and their everything at a flat level, because then it's easier for me to just keep them from stressing out. I don't have to have high carb days. It's just all moderate days. And then on top of that, I know where the problem is. If they're plateauing, I can say, okay, we're going to drop this and this. I don't have to guess, is it their high carb day? Is it too much carbs? Or is their low carb day too minimum? You know what I mean? So it helps them out and helps me out as a coach too. So to kind of like, it all comes back to, it really just depends.
So I'm going to actually bring something up that I think is a huge factor, belief, right? A huge factor is the belief in what you're doing, right? So if you have a coach, or if you're going on a new nutritional lifestyle plan, you've got it from a magazine or whatever it may be, I promise you this: if you believe that it's going to help you and work, you will follow it more diligently. It's actually one of the number one things that they say also in learning. If you believe that you can learn it, you study more. If you don't, you actually don't pursue it. It's like the fulfilling prophecy, essentially. So no matter what plan you get on, believe it. Like if you invest in a coach, if you're coming to train at a gym, if you're doing anything like that, like then believe in it, right? If you don't believe in it, find something else that you will, because that's going to be a huge factor in your success. And with that, like I said, we're going to be done with this. I think there was Cody brought up a lot of great information. We touched on a lot of good points, and it's an awesome starting point. And let us know, really let us know the questions. If you want to go more in detail, reverse dieting, paleo, this, that, the other, let us know, and we're going to answer your questions as much as we possibly can. And we're also going to do a bunch of articles that really kind of template things out for you guys, so you can print them out, have them in front of you, and it can really help you get to all your goals. So Coach Luca, Coach Boom Boom, we're out, Nutrition Corner, and we'll see you guys next time.